hand inside. Yes.
Okay. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. Are we ready to start?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so this session is more on cybersecurity governance or IT governance. The distinction between IT governance and cybersecurity governance is very little. Whenever you have IT and you have governing principles that are also applicable to cybersecurity, except there are things like officers like CISO have to form. So many people use the word cybersecurity governance or information security governance or information IT governance. They are nearly same, except in terms of organization for cybersecurity, there's a more in-depth discussion about what should be the outreach. Right? And in this session, we'll talk about the governance and how do you enforce governance or principles of governance as policies. And we're going to discuss policies quite a lot here. And we're also going to a little bit talk about the kind of organization you need to do governance. Okay. And so that will be the topic. Those are the topics we're going to cover. Okay, so first of all, I can proceed. You can.
Sir, 1 minute, sir. What car you Sir, you can use the podium mic.
Okay.
Check.
Are we using the podium mic?
So this is not the wire.
Yes, yes.
On பண்ணிட்டு அதுல.
Podium.
Podium mic is better.
Okay, that's better. So when people use the word like governance, you sort of know what it means, but you really don't know what it means, okay? So we just started the session. This is pretty much the first view group, so you haven't missed anything. What is information security governance? Okay, so, and how is it different from information security management? Okay, there are subtle differences. Information security governance is the system by which an organization directs and controls IT security. Okay, so it is sort of the highest level is governance, whereas management is more slightly lower level. Okay, so IT security governance is not IT security management. So IT security management is concerned with basically mitigating risk by putting right controls, understanding vulnerabilities. It's a more day-to-day security administration. Whereas governance provides oversight to ensure that risks are adequately addressed. More importantly, they are related to business. In other words, you don't put $1 million worth of cybersecurity controls for a business that brings only $10,000. Okay? So governance somehow justifies cybersecurity as a business, right to business expense, taking into account what it brings, okay? So governance is essentially, it's a much higher level done at the CEO, CFO, CIO level, and also you directly report to the board. Okay, so that's the difference. In other words, IT security is more management and more everyday job of basically providing the right control and ensuring system is secure and so on. Whereas management in governance is a much higher level. Okay, so governance views information security not as just a technical issue, but a business issue visible and managed at the highest level of an enterprise. Okay, so that's the key point. The board of directors and senior executives are responsible for governance, whereas IT security management is just, there may be one person, in this case CISO is responsible IT security management, but there's a level above the directors and the board of directors and the CEO, they're all responsible for IT governance. Okay, so that's sort of the main difference. Okay, now, so what are some of the key points of information security governance? It is the responsibility of the leaders at the C-suite. When I say C-suite, means CIO, CEO, COO, and of course CISO. Okay. It is viewed as an institutional requirement, cost of doing business. You are not simply doing it because it's technically interesting, but it has to be a part of your business. You do everything based on cost-benefit analysis. If you're spending $500,000 in new authentication system, you have to justify it's worth it. Okay, so that's sort of what the information security governance is. And it requires roles and responsibilities and segregation of duties are defined. Segregation also means sometimes you have to have two people, they both have to do this in order for something to successful. So that way, you're not subjecting yourself to human errors or fraud within the insider attack. Okay. So roles, responsibilities, and segregation of duties have to be defined. And it is planned, managed, and measurable and measured. That means, every month or every quarter, you have to know how much you spent, why you're spending, what's the benefit you're getting, and that's the layer. And it's reviewed and audited. And it's not only cybersecurity compliance or cybersecurity risk management, it is also compliance to all the applicable laws and regulation. If you are in the healthcare industry, you have to follow healthcare industry laws. In the US, we have a variety of HIPAA laws called HIPAA. Similarly, I'm sure you hear those laws. Similarly, financial industry, you have to follow all the laws of the banking industry, especially from Reserve Bank of India. So, in other words, compliance to laws is also, and regulations, often the laws of cybersecurity management and the corporate management, they overlap. So you got to understand, you have to make sure not only CISO and CTO, but also legal officers are also will be part of the team. Okay. Now, what are the India's IT and company laws and governance? So essentially, if a company is legally subject to cybersecurity requirement as done by the ITA or privacy laws, if an incident happens due to the failure of the directors to employ proper systems or to ensure adequacy and effectiveness of the systems you have put in place, if you do that, then it will be amount to breach of directors' duties under company law. Not simply CISO's duty, all the directors are responsible. Okay, so that's sort of a very strong law. And the other one is, which is company, it not comes from the Information Technology Act or Privacy Act, it actually comes from the company administrative and management laws, which basically says if you have a responsibility to maintain security of electronic records, especially in areas like finance requires all the records to be kept for 5 years, 10 years, whatever, must take all the necessary steps to ensure the security, integrity, and confidentiality of records. So certainly applicable to privacy laws as well. Any failure by such personnel be considered to be breach of the duties towards the organization. So you have a law about, governance or failure to govern properly comes not simply from the IT, not simply from the privacy laws, but also accompanying administrative CAM laws. Okay, so that actually precedes the IT laws. Essentially, some of you may be only being everyday technical responsibility. Some of you will move into higher levels of management, and you will be part of the governance. And the main job most of you will have, coming from the technology background, is the CISO. CISO, sometimes it's called Chief Information Security Officer, sometimes simply called Information Security Officer. Okay, so CISO is both on the governance side as well as the cybersecurity management side. It's sort of in between. And the CISO is in charge of day-to-day officer in charge of security for the enterprise. Again, because it's a CISO, it's a C-level officer as well. Now, what are some of the duties of CISO? Development and enforcement of security policies and procedures. Basically buck stops there. A CISO cannot say it's not my problem anymore. And of course, he's involved in risk management, security control. Okay, what's the difference between risk management and security control? Risk management, you analyze what are your vulnerabilities, what are your possible threats and attacks that will take advantage of the vulnerability to cause attacks. Okay, so that's the risk management. And also the cost of being attacked, the cost of, the cost of having somebody stealing the records and so on. And then the risk management is essentially evaluating the cost against how to fix those holes. Okay, so that's risk management. Is it worth it? How much I should spend? And of course, that means you have to do vulnerability analysis, and those are all and threat analysis. And of course, based on that, you spend money putting security control. Control can be technical control, or a better authentication system, better authorization system, better security software development, all those things. And that's your responsibility. At the end of the day, you have to take responsibility for making sure your risks are managed with the proper control. Again, taking into account the cost benefit. Putting in place security awareness and training programs. You have to train all your employees periodically, all your users periodically if needed, and security awareness is very important. The reason why security awareness is important is most of us will start slacking after a few months. You will do everything very nicely for 6 months, and then, Jesus, it's too much pain in the back. I think I'm not going to do it. And then you will pay for it. Whereas if you do the awareness every 3 months, then it stays fresh in your mind, okay, and then you do the right thing. So the awareness is not simply knowing, but putting it as a part of your behavior, okay? And that's sort of how you prevent, because most of the incidents happen because of poor cyber hygiene by people, not because of technology. It's the poor people hygiene, okay? Security hygiene, that's what I meant. Okay, So putting in place security awareness and training is a very important part of CISO's responsibility. And then you put all these things in place, but still think bad things happen. Incidents happen. It could be a minor violation, or it could be major attack. So, CISO is responsible at the end of the day, understanding what the incident happened, recovery from it, saving the records during incident, so that if needed, it can be prosecuted and so on. That's the incident management. And forensics is, of course, trying to apply the tools to collect data about the attack that has happened. That's forensics. We will have a session on that, okay. And then when an incident happens, you have to sort of shut down some of the systems, but then you have to come back to business as soon as possible. If you're in Wall Street, if you're in a bank, you cannot close the bank for, half a day because you will lose business. If you're Amazon, you cannot close the business forever. So you have to come back to business very quickly, and that is business continuity. You have to do a lot of things ahead of time so that your business's systems are replicated, so it can come back online very quickly. And disaster recovery. How do you recover from the disaster so that you can continue? And of course, periodic effectiveness of the security program, and of course, compliance with all the laws. So essentially, CISO is the ultimate person in the organization to make sure that your security works the way it should. Okay, so these are his responsibilities. Now, what does a good CISO organization, what type of work or what type of jobs it functions the organization has to provide? This is a suggestion from one of the major technology associated with the Carnegie Mellon University. And they basically tried to say you have to have things to protect, shield, defend, and prevent. These are mostly technology development, okay? And they are put in place, developed and put in place. This is more runtime system. After you put all your security in place, you have to monitor it, okay? And then if bad things happen, you have to respond, recover, sustain. And then this, of course, management aspect, essentially compliance, also all of legal aspects. Manage risk, educate people, govern, manage. So each of these areas requires a different kind of expertise. Okay, so this requires mostly legal and management thing. This is more online dynamic monitoring. That's more technology development, like software developers, network developers. And this one is somewhat same background. So essentially, this divides the work in such a way people with a different expertise can fit in. Okay, so that's sort of the idea why it was divided like this, so you can hire the right people. Okay, now based on that, this is the CISO organization. Okay, so you have a CISO and deputy CISO. The CISO reports to Information Security Executive Council, which probably reports to the board. And then you have Program Management Office, where you have personal and external relationship, governance, risk, and for each of the things, the security engineering is basically development, and even that is divided into host security, application security, physical security. So the people you will hire here will be very different from the people you will hire here. Okay, so what this basically says is you bring in people of different background to manage the risk in that area. And this is a sort of a suggested organization. Now, small companies cannot afford all these things. So these are only roles. A role can be fulfilled by, say, 5 roles can be fulfilled by the same person. But you have to view essentially what the type of functionality or people you need. You can do that with the 2 people, you can do it with the 10 people, 20 people, and whatever. So this is not telling you that you have to have 1 person for each, but if you can identify these roles like this, and then you know what the expertise you need, and then bring that expertise to do proper security management. So security management, there's a legal aspect, there's a compliance aspect, there is a network management aspect, there's software management aspect, software development aspect, and runtime monitoring aspect. Each one requires a different type of system and different type of people, and we have to have all of that, okay? So as you can see, a lot of you will have jobs for next 100 years, okay? So you don't have to worry about it because there's just so many opportunities here, okay? So that is the CISO organizational structure. Before I move on to the next topic, any question on governance and how to manage, how to govern cybersecurity? Okay, any question on that? Yeah, the 2 industry are very tough on governance or generally finance, insurance related industry, and increasingly, of course, privacy related issues.
So if there is a security breach,
Okay, let me give you the.
no, I can speak loudly, that's it. If there is a security breach, who will be responsible? The management directors and all, or the CISO, Chief Information Security Officer?
Okay, possible I know. Okay. Now, they cannot say this will screw it up. When the board is not overtaking properly, so they can be held liable. Okay. So this is the first person that will if he or she is not managed properly to do their job, that will fall on the jail,
The directors, the management.
yeah. But that is why the law basically goes after the board law. The law is not going after, it's going after the board. So for example, even at midday, they will say, Peter was to sign off saying, everything is fine. Different in American Wall Street industry. But he will be liable if they find something is not right, because the stockholders can sue them.
Yes.
To the people who are not doing his job. Okay, so any question? Any other question on this topic? Okay, so now which laws require you have to have a CISO in India? The companies in the banking, insurance, and telecom sectors are required to designate a CISO. Okay, you have to have one. It's a legal requirement. Okay, now we are moving into the, in my view, the most, a very important part of this course, which is policies. Okay, so what does policy means? Policies is usually at the higher level than mechanism how to implement them, okay? So policies are the primary instrument by management to affect desired behavior. Okay, so you have to set what is acceptable, what is not acceptable, who is applicable, and what is the purpose of why we are doing this. All those things should be in the policy. Policy don't have to go into detail how to implement it. It is more at the who, what, rather than how, okay? unless it's a very technical policy, like for example, how you should have, what are the acceptable password rules, in which case it will be very technical. But in general, policies are what and why and whom is applicable rather than how. Okay, so security policies focus primarily on human behavior to create an environment to minimize the security risk associated with using information system asset. So what does that mean? So it sort of implies in the policy you can have specified punishment or rewards. Okay, so you can tell if you don't follow the policy, you may be subject to termination. Okay, so in other words, it can be both negative and positive. For example, you could say you have to take the course, the training course every 3 months to refresh yourself. Otherwise, you may not have this job. So you have the right to do all that because it is control the human behavior, so it comes with it associating both the rewards and punishment. Okay, and you have the right to express that. Okay, policy defines, as I said, the who, what, where, and when of security. Okay, and also good policies build on specific business objectives and to mitigate risk. You don't say, for example, you should use 3-factor authentication for a system that controls less than $200. Okay, I mean, because you're putting people through more pain, and then it's worth it because you lose more money. So always, for example, if you put too much security on people, either they're going to find a way to circumvent it, or they won't do business, they'll go it somewhere else. Okay, so always you have to have policies that's built on, is it serving my business at the end of the day? If you're going to lose customers, it's just not worth it. So nothing is, no technology or no cybersecurity is worth it if you're losing business. The whole idea is at the end of the day, whether your business is making money. And if you're going to lose customers by insisting they have a 3-factor authentication, they won't do it. And they'll go to your competitor. Okay? So you got to constantly worry about whether it's meeting your business objectives. Okay. Okay, so what we're going to do now, we're going to look into different types of policies, and at least 2, and then we are going to analyze one policy in the classroom, and then you're going to write your own policy in the tutorial section. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. So, okay. So NIST is essentially an organization in the US, which is a government organization, which is a very high technology, National Institute of Science and Technology called. They are into all kinds of technologies, including cyber. And they define essentially 3 types of security policies. One is program or enterprise level to set organizational strategic directions. Okay. When people say open policy, they mean policy at this level. The other one is issue specific. You have to address something that you have to do to address specific areas such as bring your own devices. Or bank may say how you could use their ATM. It's very, very specific for that purpose. And then we as more on the technology side, you may have things like system-oriented. You may have things like password rules, 2-factor authentication, or when you should use VPN. Okay, sometimes the companies might insist you should use, if you are working from home, if you are using, remotely logging on to your company, even for your private business, you should still use company's VPN. Okay, so that's the VPN rule. Essentially, everything has to go to the company provided VPN, That you may say they are tracking you, but that way they are protecting, information leaking from that system to other thing. So there may be rules that are very technology or system specific, okay, and then of course issue specific, and the first one of course program level. Sometimes what is called acceptable use policies. This is very common, but often acceptable use policy will come under either this or this. For example, if you work for example, a bank or any other institution, before you log in, they will flash this on you, which it basically says, this is this company's system. You can only use it for company business. You cannot be sending your personal emails, because banks are very worried about leaking information, for example, okay? So in many industries, just before you log in, it will tell you how your system should be used. It might say, for example, you can send one or two personal emails, but not thousands emails for personal purposes. So upfront, they will tell you how the system should be used. So that's the acceptable use policy. And of course, one can say even things like bring your own device to work. Again, the policy might be, how that particular bring your own cell phone to work can be used even for personal purposes. So often acceptable use policy will belong in this area, but often you will see many times for both users and employees, there will be a banner basically says, our system should only be used. Why are they doing it? They're telling you every day, please remember that. So then they can tell you if you don't follow that, they can, right at that moment, they can fire you. Okay, that's sort of that protects the company, and also they keep reminding you, don't misuse your system. For example, don't use the system to watch pornography. Don't use the system to send threatening emails to somebody. Don't use the system to attack somebody. All those things you have to constantly remind people. It will be only 10 sentences or just, half a screen. But that is often acceptable use policy, okay? And if you are a manager, IT person, and if you want to remind people constantly, especially in some industries, this is a very, you have to do this on an everyday basis, every time people log in, okay? So anyway, it protects you, protects the employee, and and also warns the user. Oh, your user cannot say, oh, I forgot about it. I thought I can do whatever I want. They cannot say those things. So sometimes you put laws into place more so that they don't break, rather than they break and you catch them. That's not the idea. It's a more deterrence, okay? But then again, you have to warn with the deterrence, the punishment that they will have, okay? All right, so what we are going to do, we are going to look into one of this and one of this. I have a lot of sample examples in one of the references. You can go and take a look at it. Okay, let's start with the program enterprise. Okay, this is the program and enterprise level. It's often known as the policy. Okay, this is the high-level senior management statement of purpose and intent of the enterprise's security posture, okay? And this is the establishes the framework for the entire security for the organization and all the assets you're buying to support that. And it informs all relevant parties of organization's security objectives and the overall process to achieve them. So again, it's the what, not how. And most importantly, it will tell you who is ultimately responsible for security of the enterprise. It may not be just one person. In fact, the next policy we are going to see, responsibility falls on different people, okay? And generally, all the policies should have scope, who is it applicable, whose responsibility is what, and also why we are doing it, purpose. Okay? So all policies at this level should have all this information. Basically, you are motivating people why this policy exists. That's the number one, purpose and scope. In other words, this will only pertain to this type of systems, but not this. For example, some policies may exempt your laptop from doing certain things. It may be applicable only for servers. Okay, so it has to, you have to scope it. Okay. Okay, so we are going to look into this policy online. In your notes, you can access this and take a much more detailed look. Now, I do want to. Okay, can you all read this? Try to make it okay. Bring up. Okay, so this is a little bit hard to do from here, so I'm going to do it from here. So this is the Berkeley Industry, one of the major universities in the US. This is since you're all mostly from university here, you can probably think this is better. And this basically, it's a total policy for everybody in the university. Researchers, faculty, development, various IT people, students, and so on, administrative people, and everyone. Very hard for somebody else to do it.
So 1 second. Mic, please, ma'am.
Okay, good. Okay, so the first part basically, contact. The reason why this is important is if anybody has a question, they can contact these people to try to understand better or to get exemption, okay? So you should never write policies without people asking for clarification, and this is sort of an important part. Okay. And of course, this is the crux of the policy, statement of policy, what it's supposed to do, okay? And it's established an overarching information security and privacy program okay, for internal controls and so on. And it also establishes how we are going to classify information asset. For example, there may be papers which anybody can read. There may be papers only sponsors can read. There may be classroom exercises only that class can read. So there are a lot of rules about what documents should be available to who, and they should be protected. Some of them both with the right access control. So essentially, this policy also tells you that we are going to be classifying various documents in the university. If it's a proposal, nobody can read except people who are writing it, okay? So that way you are protecting it for the competitor, for example. So information asset classification is important, and that is being done. And also, one of the reasons why we are doing this is we want to still encourage collaboration and communication. And also, we are going to control a lot of the resources using access control, role-based access control. And we are going to make people responsible for certain data assets. They're going to be information owners. They are going to specify how they are going to control it, okay? So essentially, it is their responsibility. It is not the central responsibility. You control how you want your document under control to be guided. Okay, so, it establishes sanctions appropriate for non-compliance. It could be student means they can be terminated, faculty can be terminated, and so on. So essentially, the security policy tells you we have the right for non-compliance to be, for punishing you if you're non-compliant. And the security policy allows periodic review. Why is it important? Because review takes time and money. People have to participate in it. If somebody cannot say, oh, I'm too busy with my class teaching, I won't do it. If you work for the university, you have to participate in being part of the review, okay? So again, I'm not saying you should be writing your policy exactly all these days, but it sort of tells you what is the purpose of this policy, okay? Okay, and it clearly says everybody should follow this, okay? And again, this tells you clearly why we are putting this reason for this policy. You know, essentially, it says if you don't have it, we cannot conduct the mission of the Purdue University, okay? And essentially, we want to be able to control in a right way so that university mission is satisfied. Again, you can go home and read these things in detail. And then it says it applies to everybody. There's no exclusion. And then responsibility. It identifies Chief Information Security Officer, CIO. It could be CISO for all you know. Okay, CISO. And data user, data steward, information owner. So everybody has some responsibility, okay? And it clearly tells you what you should do. And then there's also a committee which guides the information security strategy. So the committee is authorized to make these decisions. And then it's also a working group, and okay, it basically tells the faculty, staff, student, you all have to comply, you don't have any other choice. Okay, and then it goes into a lot of details about various definitions, various terms used in the policy. So the policy is self-contained. You don't have to go somewhere else to find out what it means, okay? And it even tells you what information asset is, who an information owner is. It defines all these things. And then it goes and talks about, you know, related documents. You can take a look at it, okay? And then these are individual technology-related policies. You know, remember I told you also the technology area-specific policies, okay? And for logging, there are policies. and user credentials are a policy. So it essentially in one big policy to bring all other small policies into effect, and then it addresses them, okay? And then it goes into the address for this policy, and it says, you know, things that are various versions of the policy, okay? So the reason why I picked this policy is, this is, a lot of you could relate to it, you know, and it's fairly complete. It's also a university. It's not some private company, so we don't have to worry about violating their, looking to somebody else's document. It's on the website, okay? So this is sort of a one policy, okay, that you could serve as a model for you. Okay, now, what I'm going to do next, okay, let's, I'm going to go back. Yes, I can. Now I'll just stay here for a while. I'll just do this also here. Okay. Okay, so the next one we are going to look at is more, you know, issue specific. You might have heard, for example, bring your own. Many companies are encouraging people. They are allowed to bring their own iPhone, Android, or whatever, or even iPad to work. Okay, but then, you know, essentially that involves a lot of risk. Company proprietary information can be leaked. You may be bringing virus from your home computer or iPhone back to this, and all those things. So you have to have a policy, what kind of things you can bring to work, and how much security should be kept in that cell phones you bring to work, and so on. And how you should use this for work as well as how you should be home, and what are the permitted devices, what security measures should we put through, and in case you leave the company or lose the company, how we should handle the device. So basically, this policy you issue to a person who is willing to bring, who wants to bring that thing, but then it restricts the person to do certain things. For example, if he loses the phone, the company has the right to wipe the data from a remote. That could be his own personal photos and things like this. The person should be willing to accept that, because he or she might find the phone later on, but the company will say, I have destroyed all your personal data as well, okay? You have to subject to accrue that. So essentially, the policy basically tells, yes, you are allowed to bring your own computer to work, or your own phone to work, but then you have to be subject to all these things. As part of this, one of the security measures may be, we have the right to monitor this phone from anywhere. So you have to agree to install a management agent in your phone if you want to bring it. Okay. So that is what this bring your own device policy is. Now let's look at the IBM policies. Okay, here is the BOED policy. So for example, the acceptable use policy basically will say you have to use VPN always, even if you are from home, to reach the work, okay? So that's the requirement. In other words, if you are in the premise, you are already covered internal network, but if you are anywhere, if you want to use it, you have to use the company provided VPN, okay? And the company can also say only certain devices are allowed. For example, it could be iPhone 16, Android, whatever. Okay, so they can limit what permitted devices. And then they can also say these are the security measures you have to follow. Okay, essentially you have to have a minimum password requirement, two-factor authentication, protocols, you have to back up all the data, and also what security software we have to install in order for it to bring it to work. Okay. And also privacy and permission. The step that TTI will take to including how the organization will maintain. Okay, so here is where a lot of issues might come. So generally, in the US, you are not allowed to look at their private data, okay? I'm not so sure about India. If you bring your own thing, where companies are not allowed to look at your private data. I don't know what the laws are, okay? Generally, you're employed at will. They can look at it, especially if they suspect, you have moved some data from the corporate to your thing. They could worry about it. But generally, if company will say, we have the right to examine any of your data, including your personal data. Okay, once you bring the computer to work, your device, then we may even have the right to see your personal emails. Okay, or they may say we may not look into it, only on occasions you may look into it. But again, this will specify everything. And then company may have reimbursement policy. Since you are using it for work, we might give you certain amount of money as an upfront cost, or they may say, we may even support your monthly or wireless bill. Okay, so all those things. And also if it's an IT support, you can come to us if it's the right model. We may be able to fix things for you for free, okay? And offboarding is essentially when you leave the company or when you lose the thing, we are going to do certain things. And one other thing is always they will have a mobile device management software installed so they can monitor where the computer. So you have to agree to this policy before you can bring it, okay? So the point I'm trying to make with this policy is the policy has to be specific for that particular area. In this case, all these things are only applicable for mobile devices bringing to work. It is not the same as something else. So the policies have to be tailored for that particular thing. So, in other words, general policy is very different from issue-specific policy. So for each one, you have to think through what makes sense and then write the policy for that, okay? Now, Okay, so let me go back to the presentation. Okay, all right. So, Janet, your tutorial is tutorial 1, so why don't you go ahead with yours, and then I will come back to the tutorial. So we will do it in the order, okay? You want this space, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
No, I can keep it on the other side. Let it.
Okay, fine. Also, it's a 2:30. If you want to break for IT, we can do that as well.
So we just had lunch. Do you want to have your tea now or can we have it after this group work that we do? Later. We have a heavy lunch. Later, after the tutorial, we will have a lunch, tea and then have one more tutorial. Okay? You can divide yourself into groups. Can you tell numbers from 1 to 7? 1. You're all sitting together, no? Non people together. So I just would like to mix you up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. 6 and 7. Here it will not be able to sit. Maybe here you can sit. If you want to take your laptops with you, you can take.
take off sir's mic. He's still on. Then I can use that. Okay, the topic that has been that I would like to discuss now is professional ethics. We all know what is the meaning of ethics, and we would have studied about it. We would have dwelt with it earlier. Professional ethics is principles that govern the behavior of a person or group in a business environment. You know, what the world needs today is a class on ethics, because your ethics is different from what I feel, and I know the ethics that was in place when Das sir was here in NIT Trichy as a student is totally different from the set of ethics or code that we have today among the students. But when we have a group of people or an individual together, there should be a set of written rules, or what we in cyber security terminologies call as protocol. Okay, and that protocol or rules, or what in ethics we call it as principles, govern the behavior of a group or a person together. I had a alumni from Morgan Stanley come back to the institution here for as a chief guest, and she said, "Madam, in Morgan we have our own Morgan principles and ethics, and anyone who joins in Morgan Stanley continues in the institution because we have Morgan principles governing us. Every year we have the ethics and principles reinforced inside us so that we know what it is to be a part of this family." And she is actually a vice president now. And what she says is, these values or ethics provide the rules of how a person should act toward other people and institutions in an environment. And this is being defined. Actually, UGC has given a set of guidelines for educators, which is called as personal ethics. You know, how many of you have gone through the document? We normally overlook it, but it's very important to know what this is and go by the principles behind it. And these professionals will have relationships either with an employer or as a client who uses the products, suppliers who deliver products, then other professionals who are present in the system, who interact, IT users, or the society at large. It can be anyone, more than one person trying to interact with each other. There should be a set of principles or value systems that govern them. What are the qualities that they have to think about? Honesty, integrity, transparency, accountability, confidentiality, objectivity, respectfulness, and obedience to law. All these are general terminologies that you have heard every day, but in terms of a professional ethic, there are a set of standards depending on the type of corporation you work with, depending on the personal standards of behavior. The standards vary, and the rules or the corporate terminologies behind it also vary. The value systems behind it remain the same, but depending on the company that you work with, the standards of ethics change, right? One is honesty. I just skim through the set of guidelines so that we will start working on a problem. Honesty will be to refer to the facet of moral character and denotes positive, virtuous attributes such as integrity, truthfulness, straightforwardness. How do you define them? You know, we have lawyers here, and we have people who have studied law also. How do you define honesty today? In cyberspace, we call it fakes, identifying fakes. And how do you define that something is honest? And how do you term integrity, truthfulness, straightforwardness, and how do you quantify them? That is where professional ethics plays a role. It is a unseen set of rules that the world or the corporate or the system or an educational institution is built upon, and it is built upon over time. Okay, so William Shakespeare says, honesty is the best policy. If I lose my honor, I lose myself. Okay, integrity is consistency of actions, values, methods, measures, principles, expectations and outcome, and they can be regarded as the opposite of hypocrisy. And the concept of integrity was ingrained in a child from the time he is being brought up, and it should be inculcated in the early childhood days in order to build up on them. But the word integrity is derived from the Latin adjective called wholeness. But when integrity is not present, your knowledge is dangerous, because those two always go hand in hand in order to increase the livability of a community. Transparency is a set of policies, practices and procedures. It allows citizens to have accessibility, usability, utility, understandability, informativeness, auditability. Thankfully, in the information era that we are in, the cyber connectivity that we have now, transparency can easily be achieved, wherein we have WhatsApp. Today morning a WhatsApp group was formed and all of us joined into the WhatsApp group, and any information immediately reaches everyone. Okay. In the midst of this, can we achieve 100% transparency? When there is 100% transparency, everyone in the group feels empowered. Everyone gets access to the information, and each and every person in the group is open to the knowledge that is available. They can use it in their own way and try to improve upon it. So that is the use of transparency. Our RTI acts that were enacted had this kind of a transparency in mind, where every individual will be empowered in order to use whatever information that is available. Accountability, who is accountable for what? There's some problem with the workshop, the coordinators are accountable, the resource persons are accountable. So there is a point or a place where there is answerability, blameworthiness, liability and account giving. It is the acknowledgement and assumption of responsibility for actions, products, decisions and policies, and be answerable for resulting consequences. Wherever accountability is there, we will be able to know who is in charge, and the process also flows smoothly. Like when Sir was discussing about policy, he said the CISO, the Chief Information Security Officer, is answerable, and he holds responsibility for the entire process that takes place. So it cannot exist without proper accounting practices. That's why we have auditing, we have people inspecting in order to ensure that accountability is maintained. There are political accountability, ethical accountability, accountability in administration and education, individual accountability, constituency relations, public-private overlap. These are some of the examples. We will not go into details of them. Confidentiality is discretion associated with the profession, such as medicine, law, psychotherapy, wherein when a patient or a client comes with a problem, the problem has some confidentiality with it for the person who offers solutions to them, and there is an unknown, unseen pact between them. So in law and mediation, we call it privileged communications, classified informations or documents. So in business, we have need to know. In military, it's basic to the security of the corporate information. Objectivity is the principle of journalistic professionalism. What is journalistic professionalism? I don't just tell whatever I think. I go with an open mind in order to find solutions. So objectivity enables highly accelerated news reporting with sometimes it is at tension with the standards of objectivity, where the journalist remains consistently neutral. He doesn't take sides of the affected party or the party who is being blamed on it. So they take a third person view of the given problem and try to find solutions in them. Respectfulness is another quality wherein you have a positive feeling of esteem. A respect you give to people so that they are able to achieve their fullest potential. They are able to become who you want them to become. As an educator, my desire is to give respect to each and every individual participant so that you get something out of the course that is given. Okay, it's a mutual give and take, which gives a positive feeling of esteem for a person and conduct representative of that esteem. It can be a feeling of regard for actual qualities of the one respected. We all respect our expert because of the qualities that he embodies together. Okay, and what Albert Einstein says is very important. I speak to everyone in the same way, whether he is the garbage man or the president of the university, because everyone is an individual and everyone has their own positives and negatives, and everyone has a value attached to them. So as a human being, we are supposed to give this feeling of respect and get respect for who we really are. And I would always envision Abdul Kalam, just walking into a classroom, looking at a set of small children and becoming one of them and talking to them. Of course, he is remembered for his respectfulness towards people. Okay, it is a ethic that comes by developing if it is not naturally ingrained inside us. Obedience to law. Law is a set of enforced rules. We have law expert here and he was talking about jurisdiction and how we work with these laws. Now this is a basic social institution that establishes the rules that define a person's rights and obligations, and it sets penalties also, and it reflects the changes in the society's needs and attitudes, and there are amendments to this law. As the needs change, the amendments are being made to it, and this set of rules and guidelines are enforced through social institutions in order to govern the behavior of a society. And for India, we go by the Constitution of India, which is a beautiful document that tells us what is the way in which the society has to function. So basically we call all these attributes to be the code of ethics, which are guidelines for a specific group of professionals. Now can you tell me what is the definition of a professional? How do you define a professional? Are you a professional? Yes or no? Yes. How many of you think you are not a professional? How do you define it? Because professionals are going to have a set of professional ethics. Okay, according to your profession, you will have a set of rules or ethics that govern. Be it a mechanic, be it a car designer, be it an inventor, whoever it is, they will have their own set of rules or ethics that define them. So how do you define a professional?
A person who does his job or profession diligently is a professional.
Okay, a person who has a profession is a professional.
Who does his job.
Who takes his job seriously, okay. A person who takes his job seriously. Is there a kind of job that defines the profession or profession that defines the job? 1 second, madam. Yes. Ah.
Profession is an individual, it's not a group of members or it's an individual contributor.
Mm.
He has a defined set of subject matter expertise that he belongs to, that he is good at. And he has his own skill set, responsibility. He clearly knows what he delivers and what he gets in return.
Yes. So, based on summarizing what you said, a professional is a person who is trained on something or has a skill set, and a professional is someone who keeps improving his skills and he tries to better himself up. Is there any demarcation of what kind of skills belong to a professional and what do not belong to a professional?
In traditional, if we talk traditionally, yes, there are a certain skill set which are professions and there are certain skill set which are not professions.
Okay.
Like house help. Like, if a house help is working, then it is not called a profession. Right? That is called, I think, just a job or a work. That is not called a profession. Whereas a doctor, he is into a profession. Traditionally, this is what has been taught to us that I know.
Yes.
A social activist is not a profession.
Yes,
Okay.
a social activist is not a profession.
Okay. Any other point of view? Yes, madam.
Passion towards the profession will make more professionalism, and I think it would self-discipline towards work.
Okay. Self-discipline and passion, two important words. Yes. Skill set, self-discipline, passion. Yes. And improvement on your skills. Yes. Excellent. Persons who know what they do. So there are persons who don't know what they do and still they are called amateurs. Excellent. Excellent answer. I like that very much.
Profession pays professional tax.
Oh, based on the tax, we call them professionals. You know, in India, we normally say white-collared jobs and then grey-collared, and we try to define. That's why we are in the conundrum, if we can call it, the rat race for becoming either a NEET aspirant or a JEE aspirant, and you don't do both, then you have not achieved much in your life. Okay, and that, you know, it's in contrast with the code of ethics that the world is built on. Okay, code of ethics will help the professionals to apply moral and ethical principles to specific situations encountered in professional practice. It's not based on what I already know or what my parents brought me up in. It is based on the society. You know, yesterday when I was talking with Sir was talking about his time in US. And he said the first thing I did was I went to the US, I learned their culture and I tried to understand how they lived in. And I tried to fit into that society. And that helped me in trying to reach greater heights, if I am right, sir. Yes? So that is said to be the code of ethics that we try to generate up within ourselves. If we had gone to US and said this is my country's principle or my professional code, ethics, and I would only stick on to it, it is difficult. Okay, we try to blend into what is available to us. These codes convey the rights, duties, obligations of the members of the profession. Okay, it's a unknown, unlettered ethic that comes into picture whenever we enter into an organization. You know, NIT Trichy has its own professional ethic, and your institution has its own professional ethic. Everyone has got their own ethics based on which we work with. So this is actually the UGC code of ethics. There is. Can you just type into your browser the UGC code of ethics and take that? UGC has provided with a document for professional ethics of an individual. Yes. It's actually from the early years, from 1989. You can just go through the document of professional ethics, because I thought I'd show you the UGC professional ethics document, because most of us are either students or educators. So you can go through the document in order to understand what exactly it is. It will be shared to you later on along with the material for this day, but I just want you to scroll through the document to find it out. And read it. Go through the document. Later on, you can write your own professional ethic. What will be your standard document, and you can submit that as an assignment for today. Okay. So you will have to write your statement of professional ethics. Similar to, I will show you a few more codes for individuals, for organizations. As an individual, this UGC code of ethics is for faculty or teachers who work in their institutions. Okay? Next. Have you gone through? Please read through the documents, and then you can, as a group, discuss answers for these 4 questions and write it down in papers. Please give them one paper each. 1 A4 sheet for each individual. You can discuss together as a group the answers for these 4 questions and write them down in the papers that are given to you. Your profession. Individual. Yes, you belong to. That's why I have given it as a educator or a cyber security professional, which most of you would fit into one way or the other. You can write the questions down in the paper and then discuss answers for it. And one of you can consolidate your group's answer and give us a submission of a group activity. You can take 10 to 15 minutes to discuss answers within the group and write it down in your papers. You can read the UGC professional guidelines, code of ethics once. You can give them individually papers. You can discuss together as a group and submit one sheet to us. Okay, sit together as a group so that you will be able to interact. You belong to which group? So you can come this side, no? Turn the chair so that you can join them. So you were talking about skilled, unskilled workers. So what are the characteristics that distinguish, characteristics or qualities which we had discussed earlier that distinguish a professional from other kind of workers? And what is the role of an educator or a cyber security professional or an industrial person? What is the relationship? What relationship must educators or cyber security professional manage, and what key ethical issues can arise in each? Maybe 2 or 3 or 1 situation from your work environment that you can solve. How do code of ethics, professional organizations, certifications and licensing affect the ethical behavior of the educator or a cyber security professional? Ethics, code of ethics, I've already shown you UGC code of ethics. Professional organizations, you have IEEE, ISTE. Those are all professional organizations that try to define an individual. Okay, and you have for industry you have FSSAI. Those are said to be standards that have certain criteria, do an inspection and try to provide industry with certifications. licensing for various software that we use, and then we have certifications that are given based on some criteria that are set earlier. So how do all this affect the ethical behavior of an individual? Answers only to these 4 questions. Okay? Think about these 4 questions and write answers. Discuss first together as a group, then as a group find out what are the solutions that you have, and for all the 4 questions you will have to write answers to them. One answer per group on a A4 sheet. You will have to submit the answers to us. I'll give you 10 minutes for discussing, and then 5 minutes for consolidating your answers. So after 15 minutes you should be back.
Even if there are 2 professions in a group, answer for one given profession.
Yes, yes.
And ask all of the other.
Yes, yes. Everyone has got the papers? Yes. Please, 2 of you can come this side so you can face each other. You're not supposed to sit as a classroom, no? You both can sit here. Just leave your things and come. Take the chair so that in the side let so it's easier to discuss, no? You will have face-to-face contact. Come here. Va, give up. Abdi ukar. Only as a group you will be able to discuss better. Come. Two of you come this side. Come. Come in here and give up. The chair matti tirupikko. So you want coffee? You want coffee or something? Oh, it's outside. So you want to rest? You want to rest for some time? Because you have been standing all along. You are fine? Thank you.
Next time when I talk from here, put my picture behind.
Okay, okay.
Just-
Change, pages change.
Yeah, it doesn't look good. His picture, you should have my work. That's why I wanted to change
Change,
this.
change it. Okay, change. I will change.
He talking with his picture in background. So that's why when I thought,
This should be there. देखो मैं आपको You want one professional picture next to this, we will take one selfie.
I mean, I would rather have it there. Already warm. All the colors here, 15%. Yeah, somebody needs to shut up. Cover, a picture here.
So you are doing a cut of, okay.
Like,
I mean, give you a better picture. Better picture.
I'm joking, so. Good
Sorry,
time,
I'm
don't forget it.
picture too.
Just leave it there, then it's okay. I won't be talking from my own picture.
Okay, sure.
So that's the joke here.
Yes.
Yes, I'm more comfortable standing there.
Yes, sir, the podium. But you can have this as a practice for it.
Yeah, either way.
Because this will pick up your voice better for the next one.
From that. Quite well.
Since tomorrow's
But
lecture and tomorrow will be more organized.
no, we're okay. I think this is we are depending on how we more.
Tomorrow,
We are keeping time. We are doing it right. Back in time. I think that was so, I knowledge you coming here and doing that. From the conference, there, I think now they want to come in. Like it's all about back to the doctor. And make knowledge. So I might change my program a little bit because there are several of them getting together in Bangalore on Saturday. So it's a little bit Saturday, maybe, Saturday morning. Yeah, I will let you know. Okay. I'm still waiting for 5 months anyway. So what you guys can pay? Yeah, just they will operate that. And then I will fly using my own back to work check. So, anyway, I'll like to do that. Whatever you get, you can pay. Okay, it's just came up. If you get together on Saturday, I'll just call you. If you leave Saturday early enough, yeah. So that's what I would like to do. Again, it needs me for Saturday, right? Saturday morning, we can do Friday. You can Friday, but let's see what the next forward.
which there are ethical issues there. I am an educator and I get an email has I know some other content in it which I am not supposed to share with students. So that's an ethical issue. How, what key ethical issues arise and how do I manage that situation? Any time. Take any one example. They have completed only two questions, sir. Yes. Any one answer you give for the question. Okay, there are lots of answers you can give. Any one aspect of it you just explain.
Without violating
Because I have only 15 minutes more, then it would eat into your time slot. If we discuss the answers to the questions, it would take another 15 or 20 minutes. So I think we will not have time for that. We will collect your answers and then go through that and give you the feedback tomorrow. Okay. So you can just turn back so that you can view the slides. The IT professional and employer, one example is the ethical use of IT software piracy. We have a business software alliance which represents the largest software and hardware manufacturers, and they have a set of rules that gives the ethical principles behind use of software. And whether we can use, we normally we need a software, we take a crack and try to install it or try to bypass the payment systems in order to use certain softwares. So there are rules in order to work with them, and the Business Software Alliance is a trade group that represents the largest software and hardware manufacturers. So for corporate, the code of ethics include inclusive business, accountable business, transparent business standards, commitment to professed quality, representation accuracy, fair competition, then equal opportunities of the employer by the employer, upholding of employee human rights, health, safety and environment, corporate citizenship, stakeholder representation, business association and conflict of interest. They are all different facets of ethics that normally come into picture in corporate, and professional organizations also have their own set of standards. And we have some of the familiar standards organizations and professional organizations I have just listed here. Association for Computing Machinery, if you go into each of these associations websites, they would have their own vision, mission and then code of ethics. As a professional member of this organization, what is your method of working, what is your behavior, or what is expected of you as a member of this organization. So when you become a member, you sign a contract saying that I will adhere to the principles and value systems specified in their code of ethics. Similar to when you install a software, no, you say I agree to all the principles, and there's a long list of principles, we don't read them. So that is very important in order to understand why we belong to an organization. Say I am a faculty in NIT Trichy, I have a code of ethic and I will have to stick on to that. So every organization has its own code of ethic predefined, and the code of ethics depend on the authenticity of the organization, if I would say. Okay, so ACM has its own code of ethics, then Association of Information Technology Professionals, then Institute of Electrical and Electronic Engineers, Project Management Institute. There are a lot of organizations. For law, what type we have type of associations. For teachers, we have associations. Institute of Engineers, we have a separate association. Everyone has their own set of code of ethics evolved over time. Okay, and as a professional, when we belong to the organization, it is accepted and it is believed that the kind of code of ethics has to be followed in them. Okay, so some common ethical issues that we normally face, based on the code of ethics, we try to solve them. Software piracy, then copying work software for use at home, even when doing some work at home, and it's considered piracy. Inappropriate use of computing resources, then unrelated work websites being surfed during work time, and questionable emails being sent, inappropriate sharing of information, private data or confidential information, trying to give out information that you are not supposed to give out to different individuals. Those all depend on the professional code of ethics that comes into play as an individual. Basically, it's like if I have a authority, I do it. If I do not, my superior does that. Okay, and in certain cases, it depends on your integrity and your basic value systems and principles. But like software piracy, if it's the cost is very high, we will not be able to use it. So mostly everyone uses a cracked version, so let me also use it. But as a professional, as a person who has a code of ethic, I will not do it because I have an accountability to the organization. This is an example of a use case. I would like you to read this silently and tell me what you would do. Can you see? So this has a problem with the integrity of an individual. Okay. So what would you do?
Rule is a rule.
As long as the rule is on paper and you abide by the rules, even people will not be able to send you out of the job, and the lawyer would come to your rescue. That is why we have laws, in order to bind us together. But if we go according to the ethical principles or the code of ethics that is given to us, we need not fear of any repercussions to us. Okay, even if we are being oppressed, the law is on our side and we would be able to work accordingly. But if we give in to fear or fakes, then there will be a lot of problems and complications resulting because of it. Okay, this is another use case. This is regarding the information or the data that you have. And this does not concern you.
It is none of our business.
Okay.
Somebody asks us to analyze the data and give me the report, then we can do.
Okay.
It's really none of our
What would you as a lawyer do?
Ma'am, I have a follow-up question. You don't believe that this information would otherwise be discovered or disclosed? I didn't get this right.
You only know that the data exists and no one else knows.
But I have the authority to access
Yes, access the data. Yes.
Ma'am, I'll access the data.
You can access the data only because it is an ethical issue and he has been wrongly victimized. So in such case, as a person who has integrity, I am supposed to give out the information that I have. This is where the problem lies in. At times we feel that it is not in my jurisdiction. It is not within my purview. But when someone else is being wronged and I have the right information and I can stand up for the truth, as a person with a professional code of ethics, we have to do it. There's one more interesting case I found out. This is not the Cadbury case. One second. This is actually a chocolate company. You can read this. It's regarding the allegation they had based on the child labor that was included. Thank you. This was in UK. So you can just read it. It has another slide. The next slide. This is a situation wherein the chocolate company is also right and the rights organization is also right, and there is a line, hazy line between what is right and what is wrong. And at times, if there are litigations, the professional code of ethics, if taken by the rule, creates problems. If taken by the right spirit, it places the right perspective, and value systems and principles play a very important role. Of course, child labor has to be condoned, but trying to falsely implicate Cadbury to child labor when the consequences cannot be proved on paper, then there is a litigation that follows, and it creates a lot of problems for the name and the reputation of the company. Okay, so a professional code of ethics is required for every individual and every organization, and normally when a person is being recruited to an organization, there will be a HR interview, and what happens in the HR interview is to see if the person's personality and profession matches with the professional ethics of the organization, and only then there would be a value added asset to the organization. So I would request you to work on your own statement of professional ethics. You can write it in a piece of A4 sheet of paper, and or you can type it down in a Word document and send it as a mail to a mail ID. We will let you know by the end of this week in this class in this group. Okay, so you will be doing an individual professional code of ethic, and you will also do a common corporate policy, which we will be discussing in the next tutorial. So shall we go for a tea break now and then be back? You can be seated as a group. Yes, sir?
Yeah, you can have the same group
Yes.
for the next exercise.
You can have the same group for the next exercise, sit together as a group, and we will go through a corporate policy together. Then you will be writing your own individual corporate policy. Thank you.
You should be back